Alright, another EU West SoloQ VOD review. This time I am looking at this mid matchup between Ahri and Orianna. And yeah, let's begin and let's look at this first exchange where Orianna is essentially forcing it by stepping up and she kind of misplays it. So I guess one thing to mention is that Ahri was changed, so this is right after the new patch, in which Ahri got her W buffed, which means that this particular exchange is a little bit stronger for her. And I don't have so much of a problem with Orianna going for this exchange in the first place, because like you're supposed to test it. What I dislike though, is that by stepping up, he's allowing Orianna to go for it, of course, and then he doesn't commit to it. So here, the way you're supposed to play this exchange as Orianna is after this initial skill rotation and the phase rush proc, you're supposed to extend it with your Q recast, because your Q cooldown is obviously significantly lower than REW's cooldown, and also your auto attacks are supposed to deal more damage in the long term. So she should be just extending this exchange. But as you will see, she's just gonna take the negative exchange and she's not gonna play on her Q recast or look to exchange more auto attacks. So that's a little bit inconsistent with what you're supposed to do. But whatever, let's get over that and let's look at this wave management in mid, because both players are somewhat misunderstanding on what they're supposed to do. So first of all, what we are seeing right away is Orianna going for this Q usage through the first wave, basically implying that she's going for a hard push, which is valid, because Ahri started with W. When Ahri starts with W instead of Q, she cannot match Orianna's push level 1. So her going for a hard push on the first wave is a valid idea. What is not valid is this Q usage only through the melee minions. You're supposed to either cast it through both the range and the melee minions, or only through the range minions. Why is that? Let me explain, but first I want to move a little bit forward to see the entire wave, and let's explain it now. When you hard push the first wave, the idea is that you're gonna get, first of all, a trade timer that is always positive for you once you crash the wave and you bully your opponent under turret. And the second idea is denying minions on top of that. That's like the two key ideas behind hard pushing the first wave. Given that, we need to focus on how we deny as many minions as possible. So, to deny as many minions as possible, first of all, you need to acknowledge that you will not be denying any melee minions, because you're not able to hard push the wave fast enough, and because your opponent is not AFK. He's always gonna be able to last hit the melee minions before they crash. And with that, the logical conclusion is that we need to deny the range minions. How do we deny them? First of all, we need them to be below this 70% HP mark. How do we get them to the 70% HP mark? There are three ways of going about it on the first wave. First way of doing it, which I don't recommend, but you can do it, is by taking aggro on the first wave, by auto-attacking it. This is not so useful into ranged champions, but if you play against a champion like Yon, who is not stepping up at all on the first wave, this can be very, very useful actually. And the way it works is you walk into your melee minions, you click here, you auto-attack a ranged minion once they meet in the middle of the lane, and after that auto-attack, you will catch aggro from the entirety of the wave for a fraction of a second, after which, all you need to do is click back, and then hopefully what you end up with is these melee minions running behind your melee minions. When that happens, specifically, melee minions become more unstable. So they're more likely to deviate once they move behind your melees and switch their aggro onto your ranges. The same thing works when you pull the wave further away from the middle of the lane. I've talked about it in my other VOD review, in Jace versus Ambessa matchup, I believe, where I've explained the idea of optimal path, which is that every minion wave is programmed to walk a specific path. The further away they are from that path, the more unstable the minions become. Meaning that the minions are more likely to de-aggro, do weird shit, you know what I mean. This is not always useful, but in the case of you going for a first wave hard push, and in the case of you needing those ranges to be below the 70% HP mark, so that they die to a single turret hit, it actually can be quite useful. The second more common method of doing that, the same thing basically, is by taking aggro by auto-attacking your opponent. So you walk up, you auto-attack her, you take aggro from the melees, assuming that you position yourself correctly and that you drop aggro correctly, which I will talk more about aggro dropping later in this VOD, because I believe Vasco misplayed it a lot on Orianna. But yeah, when you pull aggro, you pull the minions like that. Hopefully you're gonna pull enemy melees towards your ranges, so you're gonna aggro them. That's another way of doing it. And then the best way of doing it, that doesn't involve any instability or any RNG from the melee minions, I mean to some extent there is RNG, but it's very, very limited, is by making it so that melee minions on both sides die on the same timer. When that happens, enemy range minions will be hitting your range minions. And if you combine all of that with range minions of the enemy wave being, let's say, at this HP mark, then you're in a good position, because you're gonna allow all of those ranges here on blue side to auto-attack your ranges 3 or 4 times, which puts them below the 70% HP mark, after which you're gonna be able to kill all 3 of them. And this is exactly what you will see from better Talia players. because Talia, in majority of her matchups, doesn't want to hard push the wave by hitting the melees first, which is why better Talia players will usually play here or here and then Q the ranges first, and barely touch the melee minions or the cannon minion at all. And all of that is done mainly so that you are going to end up denying a little bit more minions. So all this to say that you shouldn't be queuing through only melee minions. Then on the other side, the implication for Ahri, given the theory that I've talked about, is that she wants to make it so that Orianna is playing with melee minions advantage. Because then what happens is these melee minions are going to run here after your melee minions die and block some of the damage that those ranges would normally deal onto your ranges. And therefore your ranges are gonna be healthier and hopefully above this 70% HP mark. Let's see if that's what Ahri is gonna be doing. So here you can see that she's auto-attacking the minion at a similar-ish rate to Orianna. And then also another mistake here is that she doesn't trade on the Orianna Q cooldown, even though Orianna clearly is casting her Q on your W coming back up, so her Q is casted when Ahri's W is going back up within 4 seconds, which means that Ahri will have a 2-second trade window where Orianna's Q is down, which normally doesn't mean much because your opponent should not be making it so that you're allowed to trade on him on that window. But if you look at Orianna's auto attacks, she's putting herself into the timer where Ahri W just came back up and she needs to lock herself in auto attack animation on her Q cooldown. She's misplaying. Ahri didn't recognize it in time, whatever, minor mistake, let's move on. And talk a little bit more about this wave management. So Ahri continues to aggressively, to a high extent, spam auto-attack the melee minions, which she shouldn't be doing once again. And at the same time, you can see here, Orianna is casting her Q through both the melee minions and range minions as well. The rate of push is too much. So once again, if you really want to throw your Q on this timer, which is probably not great because Ahri should be able to trade on that, but if you really want to do it, then throw it from here to here, so that the melee minions are a little bit more healthy. Then Ahri somewhat looks for a trade timer, I think, with this movement, which I don't hate, but she doesn't really commit on this, even though here she can commit if she just plays forward with her auto attack and W. So I guess she changed her mind. And then we're gonna see this blunder. I have no clue why we are doing this. Like, this is a mistake that you expect like a diamond player to make. Don't throw your abilities onto the wave just because it's satisfying. You're not losing any last hits here, you're not losing any HP. The minion aggro is not shit for you at all. The minion setup is fine. You can last hit all of them one by one. But instead, he auto-attacks this melee and then Ws, which is totally stupid. And so what we are ending up with now is a perfect condition for Orianna. I mean, not super perfect because those range minions are a little too healthy, but still good enough. What's not gonna be good enough is Orianna waiting too long before killing these ranges. So here she stops hitting for no reason. Both of these ranges are within one single auto attack hit of the turret. They were at that point after 3 auto attacks. This guy's already auto attacking 3 times this range minion. It's dead to a single turret hit. Same applies to this one. I have no clue why Orianna stopped auto attacking here. Zero clue. She definitely should have kept on auto attacking, and because she waited now that extra second, what it means for Ahri is that she is able to trade some of her HP for holding this wave and keeping it away from crashing, which arguably isn't that amazing for her, because holding this first wave in front of the turret has its own problems, like Orianna getting level 2 advantage, and the wave being in a shitty position, because let's say that Ahri is allowed to hold this wave here, okay? Then what's gonna end up happening is the second wave will meet also here, and therefore Ahri will be forced into playing throughout this width of the lane. This benefits Orianna because her Q usage is based on how far away Ahri can rotate relative to the ball. So normally what happens in middle of the lane, for instance, is Ahri positions here, we have the wave here, Orianna is here, she throws her Q. After this Q lands, let's say here, Ahri wants to reposition to the opposite side, so that either Orianna is forced into clicking all the way back to pick up her Q again, or she's throwing her next Q throughout the entire width of the lane. If you can reduce the width throughout which your opponent is able to play through wave management, or specifically wave position, like in this instance, then you're always happy about it. So I would argue that Ahri is trolling by holding the wave. She can easily last hit 2 out of these 3 minions under turret, and exchanging that 1 range minion worth of gold for, first of all, the ability to contest level 2 advantage, but then also a better wave position, I would say is just worth it. But whatever, she doesn't think so, she goes for this exchange. This exchange is negative for Ahri, but what's even worse is that the wave position sucks. And it would continue to suck, but then Orianna doesn't play well. Not sure if you saw this, but Orianna took aggro and turned a wave that is effectively a half crash on the first wave, because you have range minions from the second wave of Ahri staying within her turret range, meaning that after Orianna kills the melee minions from the second wave, then her melee minions will suicide to those ranges, and Ahri will lose majority of them, so this is effectively a half crash, which is totally fine to play with, but then she ruins it by taking aggro, and instead of dropping it by running sideways, which would make it so that minions stay in the same place as they are, or they move only slightly up, and instead of doing that, she pulls this melee all the way here. So now the second wave doesn't meet here anymore, it meets here. That's a massive difference. Ahri can play throughout this much of the wave. Ahri no longer has to worry about these melee minions dying to the turret, all because Orianna didn't play well around her aggro. So there is that. Either way, Orianna hits level 2 advantage, and this is not your average level 2 advantage, where both mid laners hit it at around the same timer. It's like a full-on 3+ seconds of level 2. And she doesn't use it. I don't know why. Her Q is up, her W is up, and she just continued to click and stand about 800 units away from Ahri. So that's obviously horrible, you're never supposed to do that. But what you're more so not supposed to do is play like that, around your Q usage on Orianna. I have a problem also with Ahri's W usage here. It's not timed well, but I don't want to get too much into mechanics, so I will skip that. But what I instead want to focus on is Orianna's positioning. She's level 2. She is deciding that she's going to keep max range herself away from Ahri as she throws out her Q. And she lands it, to be fair, which is great. You landed it. But you're not playing as if you have leverage, even though you do. You have leverage here as Orianna. You're stronger. You have level 2 advantage. Your opponent needs to fight for every last hit. If your chance of landing your Q increases if you are here versus being here, then step up here. I don't know why he's standing max range. First of all, he should be in front of the wave, just so we're on the same page. But let's say that you don't want to be there because you're scared of Jarvan level 2 gank, or whatever. That's fine. Then the second best thing you can do is walk up here and throw your Q from a closer position, because your Q is a projectile in the end. The further distance it has to fly, the more time you give Ahri to potentially dodge it. No reason to put yourself at a disadvantage when you're stronger. And this is something that you will see from this Orianna player a couple more times in this VOD. So keep that in mind. So anyways, we have this exchange. The W usage from Ahri was not great, doesn't matter. She gets level 2, she uses it right away to Q through the wave, which is probably good, because what Ahri would love to do is have the third wave meet in the middle of the lane, because then she has the full fucking width of the lane, and on top of that, it puts her in a position where she can contest level 3 advantage. So that Q is fine, I don't hate it. Now we have Orianna refusing once again to play on Ahri cooldowns, so let me go back actually. Orianna used her Q, it will come back within 5 seconds or so. It's gonna be back within 2 seconds. There is a last hit on which you can play. You can click forward and pressure. She opts not to do it. And don't get me wrong, if she clicks forward, then Ahri is supposed to click back. And I assume she would do that. But when you're not pressuring at all, when you're applying zero tension at all times, then you're never going to make your opponent make mistakes. Anyways, she gets the last hit. Her abilities are on cooldown, but they're coming back up within a couple of seconds. The wave continues to be in a somewhat shitty position, but they're also playing a mind game to some extent. Because if, let's say that Ahri were to Q and W through the wave right now, and allow Orianna to have access to both of these minions, and what a better Orianna player would do is pull this wave all the way here. And this position is actually not that bad for Orianna, because Ahri can never play with her charm at level 3, and at the same time Orianna doesn't have that hard time poking Ahri, especially if she pulls the wave up, because that even further reduces the width throughout which Ahri can comfortably play. And then we have this exchange. I forgot about it actually. Yeah, so here Ahri presses her W and Q, once again on a random timer. This is something that this Ahri player has problems with, definitely, is the timers on which he chooses to press his abilities. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the idea of going for an exchange, but I don't know why he cannot wait a single more auto attack rotation from the ranges and then play on the last hit. Like, it's gonna be the same exchange, the difference being that Orianna actually loses something for it, and on top of that, you're gonna actually be able to last hit some of those minions. Whereas now, as you can see, we have 2 range minions that should die right now to this range minion, and if you choose to lock yourself in any auto-attack animation on those ranges, then assuming that Orianna is a good player, she will be clicking forward and trading onto you. So you're gonna lose like this much HP. But let's see what actually happens. Did you see it? Ahri wastes all of her abilities in front of Orianna. Orianna locks herself in auto-attack animation, whatever, you wanna get the last hit. But then, where are we clicking? And then to make matters worse, here she can still continue to play on this last hit. Instead, she throws her Q, like max range, this is like full 800 units, even though she has 2 abilities worth of advantage. Once again, a very cucked gameplay. And then we end up with a wave position that is much better for Ahri, because a wave position here makes so that if Ahri, let's say, takes this position at level 3, then Orianna cannot match her, usually, because unless you want a skill check, but she cannot match her on the same side of the lane, because Ahri has charm, and if you get hit by it, you lose the lane. So she will need to move to this side. The problem with playing through here, when the wave is here and Ahri is here, is that you're always limited by this wall. So whenever Ahri chooses to close distance, you cannot create distance like that, you can only create distance like this, which is very, very difficult to play with. Then Orianna's mispositioning on this wave. I'm not sure why she opted to click through her wave like that. Doesn't make much sense. All it did was allow Ahri to have a more efficient Q usage that allows her to play for level 3 advantage even more so than she normally would be able to, and also puts her in a position where she could potentially hard push this third wave. We'll see how it exactly progresses. So we have this Q usage. Ahri chooses to, I would argue, misposition. Normally what you would see from better Ahri players in this laning phase is stand all the way here. You want a Q, okay, but your Q is in this position. You don't want to allow her to have her Q near middle of the lane. You want to go to the very edge, okay? Orianna's also mispositioning on this Q usage, just so we're on the same page. She wants to Q through the wave, that is correct, but she's not Qing through the wave, if you look again. She's Qing outside of it. If she were here, no matter where Ahri moves, okay, I don't care where she moves, you're always able to adjust your positioning accordingly and Q through the wave so that you can match her push. And it's not because you want the wave to be here or here, okay? You want ideally the next wave to be there. That would be your dream on the 4th wave. And the way you achieve that is by giving her 1 minion worth of advantage, not 2 or 3 minions. At this point already, Ahri has a full minion worth of advantage. You don't want to give her any more. So queuing through the wave is the better option. She doesn't exactly do that, she wastes her Q, and now Ahri is abusing it, which is also timed with her level 3 advantage, which is amazing, okay? Orianna wasn't able to do it before, now Ahri is taking advantage. The skill rotation is beyond disgusting, you should get reported for throwing your abilities out like that, but once again, I don't care about mechanics, the idea is good. The positioning here is not good though. Once again, you want her Q to be on the edge, here. Or go here, I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't care. Move to either side. Make her Q here or here. Don't give her a Q where she throws it through this entire wave. Because that's what she wants. She wants to be able to match your push. Because if you choose to Q through this wave at this point and auto-attack it and all that, then she's not able to hold it here. But if you allow her to reduce the wave, then there is some questions, you know? Maybe she can hold it in the end and keep it away from crashing. You're making her life easier. That's what I'm trying to say. The Q and W from Orianna is really good, but then she is not recognizing that it's Ahri's straight timer. Ahri is abusing it extremely well, and the 4th wave will meet in a decent-ish position for Orianna. It's not horrible, because now Orianna can in theory play through this side, so it's no longer limiting by this wall, and Ahri has a hard time hitting her E at any point, because she would have to walk all the way in front of the turret in order to find an angle where she's not throwing her abilities through a minion. So what Orianna needs to do now is just match the push of Ahri, or give her a 1 minion worth of advantage. You can do either one of those. Let's see what she is going to be exactly doing. So far she's matching the push, then Ahri is looking for an exchange. The exchange is not played that well. But then Orianna does this. I have no clue what this Q is supposed to do, because even if you land your Q and W on this timer, even then it sucks because it gives her an ability to play in front of the wave either way, even if she has this much HP left. Doesn't matter. She can still play in front of the wave. And that's what she does here, because she is not scared of Cho'Gath. And she ends up denying the cannon minion. And on top of that, killing Orianna meantime. And this is where I will end the VOD review. And that'll be it. I've enjoyed reviewing this VOD, as always, and bye bye.